And once you deselect it, all those items are unique instances that are editable and
Yeah, if we double click on this now,
they're their own individual symbols.
Yeah, each one is their own instance of the symbol.
Even though you
There's
just
only
made
one. There's only one symbol,
right.
but these are all different instances of it.
Gotcha.
So I could delete one of them.
Right.
You know,
You
from
could have
there.
one bouncing or one doing different things,
Yeah,
different animations if
sure.
you wanted to.
Yeah, we're gonna do that in a second.
Okay.
So.
I want to jump ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so the first step here is we make our grid pattern, and then I'm gonna make a little special dot. On a separate layer here. It's a little bit bigger. I'll make sure it has a 0, 0 for the start and end angle. And we're going to change it and make it red. Actually, we're going to make it a gradient. And we're going to remove the stroke. So to remove the stroke, you just hit the little no stroke button here. And let's see, I did make it a gradient. To adjust your gradient, you just go to the color palette. And let's see, for some reason it's not showing up. There we go. And you can choose what kind of gradient you want here. And we're going to we'll make it red. This is gonna be a power pellet. And we'll make this one red as well. But we're gonna give this alpha 0. And we're gonna move this out just so it has a little bit of a glow to it. It's a little bit of a softer edge. Okay, we can remove that. Under the transform tool is also a gradient transform tool, so you can use that to change the angle of your gradient or make it wider or smaller or bigger or whatever. So it's good to know it's right there, because if you don't know that, you're like looking all over. How do I change this, adjust it? It's kind of can be a pain. Okay, so now I have an object. I'm going to convert it. We'll call it power pellet, and we'll make it a movie clip. And we're gonna. Doesn't matter where we put it right now. We're gonna actually delete it in a second. We can see again in our library. Now we have power pellet there. I should have probably put movie clip on the end of it, but I didn't. And we're going to animate this. And we're going to do that, I'm going to click on a frame, and I want to make it. Basically, I want to make this glow. It look like it's kind of glowing. Has a little life to it. So, and I want it to be kind of slow. So. As we talked about before, our properties were set to 20 frames a second, so I want it to be like a 2-second animation where 1 second it goes to almost 0 opacity, and then it goes back to 100. So I'm going to click on frame 40. So I want it to be 2 seconds, so that's frame 40, and we just right-click on it, and we have the insert keyframe. And we can do create motion tween. It's basically saying this object is not it can't be tweened because it's not a symbol, even though, because I'm inside the symbol. So basically it's just an object, so it has to create like a symbol within a symbol. So it's a nested symbol. So I'm just going to hit OK. And it just made it a movie clip symbol. So if I click on another frame, like frame 20, and click on the object, So now I created an alpha, and basically just take the alpha and bring it down to you know, 10, 12%, 15%, something like that, real low. And we can see if we drag the scrubber or across the timeline, we can see that it does, well, it stays at 0. We basically need to right before the last keyframe, we just need to increase the alpha again. We'll just bring it back to 100. Actually, the thing I did wrong is I created a keyframe instead of a blank frame, so it didn't work with that motion tween. So I can just remove this frame and then move it over. I don't know if you saw there was an extra dot there, an extra keyframe. So basically, it would be at 100, and then it would be at 100 again. There was like an extra frame in there, so you just right-click on it, and you can just remove any frame.
Well, what's the difference between keyframe and a regular frame?
A key. Okay, I'm sorry. A keyframe has an attribute to it, like a defined attribute. A regular frame is just empty. Basically, it's saying nothing's really going on there. And a keyframe is a point where information is changing about the object.
Okay.
And if you have, for instance, this first keyframe, you can note the keyframes by this little black dot. And at this first keyframe, our alpha is 100%, so it's completely opaque. And then at our second keyframe at frame 20, the alpha was at like 15% or something. So basically, you're defining changes in the object, and because we have the motion tween set up, it's actually translating those changes over time.
Okay.
So that's why, like, if I scrub through it, you can see it growing, or not growing, but the alpha becomes more opaque, or more transparent than a more opaque.
Okay, I see.
So it creates this like glow animation. So if we go back to our scene, and if we right now, it's important to know that your symbols can have different timelines than your actual scene. For instance, that our symbol had 40 frames of animation, and our scene only has 1 frame right now. And I'll show you what that looks like. If we go to test movie, we can see that it is animating. You're not going to be able to really preview it here because there's only 1 frame in your timeline. Basically, it's just looping that frame, the animation, over and over. So now we have this like glowing palette animation. But I don't want. Let me test it again. If you do Control Enter, basically tests your movie, so you can preview your animation. And when I preview, I can see that glowing dot, or the static dot underneath, and I don't want that. So I'm going to remove this symbol. I'm on my regular scene stage here. I'm going to remove that symbol because it's in my library. That was just an instance of that symbol, so I removed the instance, but the symbol still exists. And it's called Power Palette, is the actual animated one. These symbol 1, 2, those are just the symbols for the actual red dot itself. And what I want to do is basically remove one of these white dots and put that red dot in there in its place. So I'm just going to double click on the dot pattern there, and we're going to remove one of them, and we'll just remove this one, and we're just going to drag the power palette in its place. Okay, and we can just use the arrow keys to just nudge it where we want it. And again, we can just test the movie to make sure it's still working. That was Control Enter. We can see now we don't have that white palette underneath. Okay.